couldn't be more thrilled to have one of my one of my most sought after speakers and founders and lots of things, Matt Britton, who I got to work with when he was running MRY, and so spent a few years together there. Been admiring his work for quite some time before, and Matt's also known well for being the author of the book Youth Nation, which is a great read, and really like I mean Matt, you could tee it up better than I can, but it was like maybe like the first to really get into what Gen Z is all about, and help like I mean like the concept of that cohort have been around a while, but like what's really making them tick, what's different about them. And Matt's been at the forefront of that for what, like 20 years or something, like where that next gen is coming. And what he's doing with Suzy is just amazing. And beyond like just building this business and fundraising and building the team there, like I got a look last year at their AI summit at some of their applications of AI. I'm very curious to hear from you today where that's going. So Matt, like just start off, like who the hell are you? What do you want to be known as today? So
Well, I mean, I want to be known as a great dad and husband and all those things. But in terms of business, I'm an entrepreneur. I've spent my career helping brands really understand the new consumer. I started in the advertising realm. I started an agency called Mr. Youth back in 2002, right when the internet was taking hold with younger consumers. As you know, David, and you mentioned, I rebranded as MRY in 2008 when social media kind of took hold in the mobile device. Built the company up to about 500 people. It was acquired by the Publicis Group. And then I started a company called Suzy in 2016, which was originally called CrowdTap, which basically became an on-demand consumer insights platform. And it really is sort of a culmination of everything I've been working on in my career, helping brands understand a new consumer. I built a company which essentially is a research platform that allows companies to do it themselves. And we've been building this business for the last, I guess 8 years now, and it's been a great run. We've raised over $100 million. We have about 300 plus employees, work with most of the largest brands in the world right now, and it's been a fun time. And obviously with the AI, it kind of does two things to you. It scares the shit out of you and it motivates you at the same time to do something. But it's times like these, as I've seen with social media, as you know, and mobile, that you got to move fast. And I think I thrive in times like this, and it's been really exciting.
yeah, well, this is awesome. So like I'm also curious because like I saw last year, like you already had this amazing roadmap for AI. You're starting to apply it there. Like when did AI first started coming up in conversation over there?
At our company,
Yeah.
I mean, really, when ChatGPT first came out, we were using a tool called Jasper to help with social media ad copywriting. I
Mhm.
would say probably like July of 2022.
Mhm.
Um, Actually, 2023, July 2023. And then when ChatGPT came out in November, obviously a lot of people started talking about it.
Yeah.
Um, the thing is, David, like so many people talk about it,
Yeah.
but I would say, and I put this on LinkedIn recently, 99% of the people that are on stage talking about it probably have spent no more than like 5 hours, like really building. And I don't mean just like asking ChatGPT for a recipe for dinner, but actually understanding how to build applications. And since you don't need to be a coder to build applications, the only way to truly understand it,
Mhm.
my opinion, is to really build on it. And I've been spending more and more of my time actually building applications, which, you know, I have some of my investors saying, why do you have other people do it? And the reality is the only reason I had other people do it in the past is because I didn't know how to code. And I think what that has done for me and my company has been able to kind of lead by doing. And
Mhm.
that has truly changed culture and has really allowed us to stop talking about it and start really changing the fabric of our business around it.
Yeah. Well, it's I mean it's wild to see that evolution, and then also figure out like some of the implications of it are pretty staggering. I mean, I want to let you get get into those, but one that really stuck with me was when and actually you can help me with how you're describing it when talk about like simulated research panels and like what's that about? And
Yeah. So you're talking
yeah,
about synthetic audiences.
yes, there we
It's
go.
something that I'm lukewarm on, but I understand the promise of it long term.
Mhm.
Essentially, market research is about asking questions and then getting those questions fielded by the right level of respondents. And that second part, the right level of respondents, has a lot of nuances to it. One of which is in the internet age, making sure that they're actually real people and not bots. So there's a huge problem in market research of, Eastern European bot farms having robots respond to surveys and earning the incentives that are affiliated with them, and then
Mhm.
clients are essentially paying for fraudulent research work. And that's been something that we've been trying to solve for a long time. So we first started toying with the idea of a synthetic audience on a patented product that we've built called Biotic. And what Biotic is an AI bot detection tool that allows our clients to make sure it's actually really a human on the other end of the research
Mhm.
report. And the way that we trained it was through the same synthetic audiences that the Eastern European bot farms are using to actually answer it. So we had to kind of create the nemesis to train against it, so to speak. And then in the last year, what we've heard in the research industry, which is a very dated industry with like a lot of legacy incumbents that aren't really evolving very quickly, which
Mhm.
creates opportunity. But there's a lot of discussion about, is synthetic audiences the future of research? Like, why wouldn't a customer, if they're launching, a new water bottle and they're testing the packaging, right? Why wouldn't they ask a synthetic audience basically what they think about it? And there's a lot of studies out there that show that their responses are 90% correlated with the real human response.
Mhm.
I don't buy into that for a lot of reasons. Like synthetic audiences are basically just mirroring the rearview mirror of the internet and not where it's headed. And if you look at trends and whether it's new TV shows or new music or new things that happen, there's not always a historical context for it. And I think that if you're relying on a synthetic audience looking in the rearview mirror, you're really going to stunt your brand's ability to innovate.
Mhm.
That being said, what we're using it for is things like testing survey design. So making sure that your questions aren't leading, making sure that your survey doesn't have too much fatigue. Like there's things that you can do to actually use synthetic audience to make you a better researcher without relying on it.
Mhm.
So we are spending a lot and innovating in synthetic audiences because I think there will be also other use cases for it that may make more sense. But if you're trying to test creative or you're trying to test new packaging design or understand new consumer trends, I don't think synthetic audiences is where I would go as a researcher.
And so then like where else in the process like actually let's just talk about survey design. I just did the AI Marketers Guild uh, member survey and on AI trends, and first thing I did is go into ChatGPT and say like, here's some ideas for questions, here's my audience, like and then I obviously didn't just take the first draft and use it, but it was a good first draft. Yeah, like where does it fit in Suzy's flow for that? Like, how well do you think it
Right.
works?
So in terms of like consumer or any type of market research, there's really three steps. And when you talk about survey design, it's really the middle step, which to me is the most commoditized. So if you're a brand and you're coming out with a new product that you're innovating, a new deodorant brand, right?
Mhm.
You first want to understand what the market size of the market is and if there's demand and who the consumer is and things of that nature. And you actually really want to come up with a strategy, right? And then after you've come up with that strategy, you will engage in research. And that's where things like survey design and making sure that you have the right tools,
Mhm.
right, to do the research. And that's where companies like Qualtrics and SurveyMonkey have really innovated with a first mover advantage, having really sophisticated research tools. And then on the outside, the third step is, okay, we got all this data back. What do we do about it? What are the stories that come out of this data that enable us to make a decision with confidence? The obvious places for AI to be able to power research is in that second step, right? So it could be everything from more rigorous instant analysis of, say, open-ended questions. So you ask people, what three words would you use to describe Starbucks? And it can automatically just, give you a sentiment analysis. Or if you're doing like a focus group, it can analyze a transcript and get back to you. that's going to be ubiquitous in research, just like AI applications are ubiquitous in so many other verticals we see. Really, where the innovation is going to be is on the edges, on how do you actually help clients formulate strategies with AI support, and most importantly, how do you actually take the stories coming out of that research to actually be able to make better decisions for your company. It's where the most human labor is involved right now in research, and that's where the lion's share of our innovation is really going towards.
So then like so there's a big word that we're also getting to here, and that's insights. And I saw this like when I got to Sysmos in late 2016, right after I was at MRY, then the first thing I told the sales team was stop using the word insights, right? Like this is what our clients derived from our work, and if it was really good, we helped them get there. But we didn't come. Our tech did not come up with insights. We had data, maybe trends, right?
Exactly.
I, like my gut though was even seeing things in those early days that like why couldn't AI start picking up the why piece?
Well, it's even further, David, because if you think about any type of product that a company creates, whether they're creating a 30-second spot, or they're creating new packaging design, or merchandising collateral, or an offer, or anything, it usually starts with some type of research, right? So let's say you want to make a prototype for a packaging design. And what would normally happen in research, let's say there's 3 phases of research. Phase 1 is the world you were talking about, where a company would just say 32% of consumers like package design A. Right. And they would give it to the brand, and the brand would have to derive the why behind the what, right? Why do they like package design A versus B, et cetera? And then the new world that research companies like ours try to get into is really help them understand the why, which I think requires a lot of human labor. We could say, well, the people who like package design A have this type of demographic, have this type of income earning potential, and also like Beyonce, right? Like some type of correlation that allows you to bring a customer segmentation into light, understand why they like it, to give companies conviction in moving forward. I think what we're really focused on is why stop there? Why can't we actually have the insights behind package design A and actually have AI actually build prototypes and actually take it further along that process and give clients prototypes where they'll still give it to IDEO to finalize the design, but we'll take it 60% of the way there. So we're not giving you data, we're not giving you insights, we're actually giving you the prototypes. That's where I think a lot of this is heading, is we're now trying to figure out how we can do more, because if the starting point of any project is research, why can't we take it further? If we have access to the same technology and we have more data, and there's so much that can be lost in translation when that project is handed off earlier in the process, that it actually benefits the client from, an efficiency standpoint, a quality of work standpoint, to actually allow us to do that. And that's one place that we're really focused on, is redefining really our entire market on what we can do.
So how much does that scare the client? Are you doing too much of their jobs?
Well, I mean, so it's a great question. I mean, online market research scared the clients, e-commerce scared clients. When I first pitched social media to Hershey's, they basically said, we'll never spend on social media. Like, we're only going to spend money on TV. I remember being in their office in Pennsylvania. Like, that's sort of, if I wanted to worry about not scaring them, I'd work for Nielsen or IBM or a legacy company. But I think what's starting to happen is, and I'm seeing this a lot, is the C-suite is being taken over by millennials now. Like the youngest, the oldest millennials now are starting to get into the C-suite at scale, and the youngest ones are coming in as well. And the big difference there is now you have the generation that grew up with the internet in the household making big business decisions, and they're less likely to be scared than I'm a Gen Xer, right? And Gen Xers are mostly the people who are in the C-suite today. They didn't grow up with the internet in the household, and they're very much okay with keeping things status quo as long as they get their pay package, right? They don't want to screw things up. So I think, getting to this new realm where millennials are in the C-suite, I'm finding less and less clients are scared, and more of them understand where things are headed. And I think that creates an opportunity for us.
So then, and now going to something that's near dear to for a lot of people in this room, like how scared should some of us be about our jobs right now?
Well, I mean, I think that there's always opportunity to be scared about your job, right? When COVID hit, you could be scared about your job. In 2022, when the bottom came out of the tech market, you could be scared about your job. After 9/11, the 2008 financial collapse, I can give you so many instances where you should be scared about your job. I think ultimately it's incumbent on all of us to like, look what you're doing, David. Like, you're reinventing yourself around AI. Nobody told you to do it. You just knew that's where things were going. You did the same thing with social media. The reason you're successful is you always are leaping into where things are going. And I think the reason not to be scared about your job is it's not like AI requires coding. Like, the one thing I don't really understand is why people think that AI is for young people. Like, senior citizens should be the biggest users of AI, right? Because so I think there's massive opportunity there, for example, right? So I think there's really nothing stopping people from diving in besides their own fear and their own discomfort, right? And I think ultimately, if you do take the leap and you do become an expert and you do actually take the real time to understand how these things work, then not only do you have reason not to be scared, you have reason to reinvent yourself and be a future leader. And I think so it creates opportunity, but it is shaking out people who hide in plain sight, and I think that's what's going to start to do. And I think there's certain industries where disruption should happen instantly and won't. For example, like, I don't see why accountants should exist at all next year, but they'll exist 10, 15 years from now, right? So I think that ultimately, just because it can take jobs doesn't mean it will, because I think things usually take a lot longer than people imagine. I mean, there's still people who use AOL for internet access.
And so, I mean, like, how much time do you get to spend dabbling in this stuff? Like
I'm spending 90% of my time right now building things for our business. I can give you some examples of things that I've built that have changed our company from the inside out. And they're the types of things that never would have happened unless I just did it. And now our company will never be the same.
I'd love to hear this. Yeah.
So the first thing I actually built was for myself, which really changed the way I look at my life. And it actually taught me how to dive in from a company standpoint, which is I created my own health bot. So I created a custom GPT where I took all my blood test results that I had for the last 10 years, all my x-rays, all my MRIs, every doctor's note I've gotten. I just went through my Gmail and searched for anything I could have gotten. I even called like the Quest Diagnostics and asked for them, and I put it all in there. Wow. And then I start to ask questions like, if I were to die 10 years from now, what would it likely be from? If I went to extend my life, what would I do? Why do I, instead of going to WebMD when you feel something weird, this thing now knows everything there is to know about me. And the thing that really like had was jaw dropping, as I said, if I were to book 5 doctor's appointments that would extend my life this year, what doctor should they be with? And it gave me the list, and I just booked it. And and then something which I'm fine now got sort of like revealed, as tends to happen when you're 50 years old, that if I didn't reveal it, maybe I wouldn't be here 10 years from now. And so I'm like, oh my God, AI might have saved my life, right? Like, already just me doing it on my own. And why wouldn't every person do this, right? And then why wouldn't you do the same thing with your financial information, right? Why wouldn't you just upload a CSV file of every expense you've made and create something similar, right? And how would that help with taxes, et cetera? And then I'm starting to think, okay, what was the common theme between the health bot and the financial thing I built? Well, it's just data, right? Those sources of data unlocked insights about my life and caused me to live differently, which it has, right? So then I start to think, well, what's the analogy for our company? And I start to look for all the data sources that matter. And the thing that I uncovered is our company, had to go remote, as a lot of companies did during COVID. And I think that provided an advantage and provides an advantage in the AI world because all of our data is in the cloud. And one key piece of our data in the cloud that became a treasure trove, which now our business operate, is Gong call transcripts. So we use Gong to do calls with customers and prospects, et cetera. And I was able to essentially extract 20,000 calls that we had with customers and prospects over the last 3 years. And I was able to take that raw data and essentially train a model, which now allows our company to do everything from understand our product roadmap to how to send follow-up emails. It created our entire SEO strategy, because think about it. We spoke to thousands of prospects. The things they're talking about are the things they're searching for. The words they use are the words they're going to search for. And we essentially have created an entire model based upon and continue to around those customer conversations. They're real, they're raw, they're unfiltered. We were even able to model what is a great sales pitch because we took the calls that led to a deal closing. We were able to identify churn risks based upon things that customers said before they churned on our product. And I've been building nonstop on this model. And that's just one of many examples that we've been building on. And how did it happen? I just did those two things for myself. I'm like, wow, let me try this. And all of a sudden I'm an AI expert, but I'm not really. I just am a business. I just know what my business needs. And the tools are so incredibly easy to roll out. And there's 5 or 6 other examples of that where we've taken proprietary data sources from Salesforce, even our employees, pulsing them on how they feel about working at Suzy, and also product data, like how are companies using our product, how are users using our product? And those essentially become streams of data. And those streams of data, essentially, you can use to build applications on top of yourself that change the way you operate. And so that's not our product. That's data that feeds the way that our company operates, but it's created a lot of automation and made us a lot more efficient.
Well, and now I gotta ask, like, how concerned are you on the privacy front, like for your health data or for your company data? Do you do some like private?
What? Someone's going to say that I have high cholesterol and they're going to like the Russians are going to come for me. Like, I have bigger shit to worry about. Like, I just think that's what people say when they want an excuse. Like, we're putting our credit card data and our social security data and everything out there already, like to protect yourself. But like, we use the enterprise. We have an enterprise agreement with OpenAI. We were one of the first companies to do a deal with them. It's like $250,000. And we, according to them, have a firewall. Do I know some interns not like crawling through everything? No, but you don't know that with your Gmail either. That's just the world we live in right now. So, I mean, you can go off the grid if you want and keep everything private, but ultimately life is short. I tend not to worry about that stuff. I don't really worry about any of this because I think what's the point? It's just like you have to move, you have to keep things moving. Something's going to blindside you one day you don't expect. And the thing that's going to hurt you is going to be the stuff that you're not thinking about in life, not things that you worry about. You know what I mean? Like one of those 18,000 people that got laid off from Meta last year was probably crushing it, thinking they were going to be like number 2 to Zuckerberg, and one day they got laid off. I never would have imagined, a company with billions of dollars in the bank. So it's like you never really have any guarantees.
No, I mean, it was crazy with seeing all these companies as like how profitable they are, and still like.
Well, what I think it was, David, is that Meta cut 18,000 people and they still grew 40% because the future isn't evenly distributed. So they just see where the future is before anyone else because they created their own large language model. So they were able to see some of the things I've been seeing last year, and just were able to see how much they could automate. I think other companies are going to see that 5 years from now. They're just ahead of the curve. But I think you're going to see more and more and more of it. But I do believe that money that they save is going to be reinvested. And that money that gets reinvested will create new jobs. I do believe that. The money's not just going to sit there.
And we did get a question coming in that I definitely want to get to. Like you mentioned your agreement with OpenAI. Are there any other like outside tech that you're using?
So we are about to sign on with a data warehousing companies. Like I never understood what companies like Databricks and Snowflake did. Tech, but I still just never understood it. But once I tried to put 20,000 call transcripts in Google Sheets, I quickly understood why they exist because it's just breaking everything. So we just have a lot of data streams that are just kind of patched together because we never really did anything with that data. So it sat in other companies' clouds. But now that we're actually using the data in a real way, so I think those companies are going to be they are the rails and picks and shovels of AI, the companies that have the data storage. So companies like Snowflake that are creating their own large, I think those companies are going to do so well because companies are going to start to understand the power of data and what it can really do. IBM has been running ads for the last 5 to 10 years. Unlock the power of data. No one ever really knew what that meant, but now it actually is actionable in a crazy way.
Yeah. And then are there any others that Suzy or you?
I mean, I probably sign up for 10 new applications a week.
Uh-huh.
Because they're like, $200 here for like, I just trying different things like the application layer.
Yeah.
But really, like we had to pick an LLM and we did, and now we need to pick a data provider. The other two layers of kind of the AI stack are the chips. We're not going to buy chips, but obviously what I think there's going to be a big upgrade cycle in phones and laptops, because I just upgraded to the M3 and it was breaking my computer with the M1. Like, so you start to see why companies like Apple are you talk about edge computing. I think that's one area. I think you're going to see a lot in, and then, I mentioned the application layer. I'm building my own applications internally, but there's lots of little applications that are out there. Like that health bot is a business. Like somebody will roll that out and make a business out of it.
Yeah.
It might not be defendable over time, but people would pay for it, like in heartbeat. So I think you're going to see a lot of that. But those are really the four layers of the stack. And I think the two that we really spend money on from an enterprise investment is the LLM relationship, mostly for the data and privacy that you brought up, and then the data, making sure our data is stored in the right way that can be tapped into, so to speak.
And just one other thing I want to get into, and then we can draw some from in the chat and welcome some folks come in and ask directly. But like there's a lot out there as far directly, but like there's a lot out there as far as like the kind of noise from too much content generation. And like I worked with you at like what was heavily like a content forward shop.
Yeah.
And so there's so many marketers and others just doing stuff because they can and maybe not because they should.
Yeah.
And it's where you see like is this just a race to the bottom? Is there like any like is there any like positive side to all this? How do you see this space?
I mean, I think that ultimately it's up to the people who filter the content to make sure that, if LinkedIn just publishes every AI generated garbage post, then people stop using LinkedIn. So I think the platforms are going to have to do a better job at moderating and filtering out what's real and what isn't. Ultimately, they're going to be able to do that through the signals they get from the recipients of that content. So I think, there is room for mass generated content. Like, I think I look at it on the other side where it's like, I look at an ad agency and I look at things we used to get paid for at MRY. And I just think 95% of that actually can be automated and doesn't need human intervention at all. And I think the last 5%, almost like there's 5% of occasions you need a real photographer for, like a wedding or a big event. And the other 95%, your phone and Instagram is fine. I think that for content creation, it's going to be the same thing. So I think a lot of it is going to get commoditized, and we're already starting to see it. Ultimately, it's not about the content, it's about the value of the content, though. Like I can use Canva and I can have AI write the copy, but if I'm telling some people things that they've never heard before, then that's great value, even if it's AI. It's about the strategy and the value behind the content, not the content itself.
Yeah, I mean, it's like things, like workhorse stuff, like people make such a big deal out of like what does press release say? Like when the research report, I wanted to just have an official record of it to point people to. I'd Claude generate it. Like I didn't even look at my quote. Like I don't care, right? Like and my partner, she's like, oh, like what you said sounds really smart. I'm like, I didn't write it, Claude did, because this was not the most important thing I had to do that day, and and sometimes AI can just do it way better. Like,
yeah.
So I want to get into questions coming in, and also feel free. Might be easier to do the little hand raise icon if you want to just chime in live. I will take the one from Miriam. I mean, you touched this a little bit as far as like, but now going back to what you're saying about 95% of those automated jobs, do you have any other thoughts about the future of work?
The future of work.
Yeah.
So we've been remote, and I think that I was very concerned at the beginning because remote kind of happened to us. It wasn't our choice. Like during the pandemic, I just started hiring people all over the country. And then next thing you knew, we couldn't have an office because people were everywhere. And we had an office and people just came in and they were on Zooms every day talking over each other. So here we are being remote. for a while, I was really concerned about it just because, and I still am to a certain extent because we're losing the culture, especially for the younger employees, et cetera. But now, given some of the examples we've talked about, I think that in the AI world, having all of your data in the cloud, it really gives our employees nowhere to hide. Not like the good ones don't want to hide, right? But the ones who aren't good, it's very easy to see what they're doing just based upon their output because we have all the data and now it can be easily analyzed. You know, we don't just because you had it in the past doesn't mean you used it. And I think it allows us to unlock things we wouldn't ever have been able to unlock. And the way that we're really trying to make up for the lack of culture is just get together with more offsites, more, big town halls, et cetera, and things like that. So, for us, I could see us having 2,000 employees being completely remote. And I never thought that was the case a year or two ago.
Yeah.
And I think it's because of AI. I feel like that's actually possible.
Well, just about the only office I missed going to was our old one on 19th
Yeah, I
Street.
mean, that was amazing. And right. And there was incredible memories from that. And there's trade-offs, obviously, for sure.
Yeah. So, and then like, I mean, given your very open nature and just like do shit nature to all this stuff, then like I gather like, is there even any AI policy at Suzy for like what the team can and can't use or?
Yeah, of course. We have to because we're working with Google and Microsoft and Apple and Amazon as customers, for example, for all our customers. To be a vendor of theirs, we have to go through a rigorous compliance and data security framework. And part of that means that we have to be ISO compliant and SOC 2 and all these things. And doing that means we've invested a lot in privacy and legal and data security to make sure that we can work with these companies. So I might be able to do stuff on my own, but in terms of the way that the company is operated, we have a lot of policies in place for how we do these things. Which I think multiply that by 1,000 in a big company, and that's exactly why they're not going to innovate, right? Their lawyers will kill everything and give them every reason not to do things until somebody takes them over.
And so how do you find that balance, especially as Suzy keeps growing
up?
It's not easy, right?
It's not easy when we grow. I mean, because like we have a great legal team. We have a great data security team. And I fight with them all the time, but I also know they're professionals and they're doing what I hired them to do. But I often think if that Airbnb and Uber listened to their lawyers, they wouldn't be in business right now. Or YouTube, or you can name the companies that wouldn't be around if lawyers told them not. So it is a balancing act. We have institutional investment. There's a lot of things to consider. It's about just picking your spots, and that's why I found it great to just build on my own, because by the time I go through our own legal team, right, and we're a relatively small startup, right, and have meetings with my team, et cetera, I could have just built a prototype myself. That's what I'm learning, is it takes less to build it myself than to deal with everybody else to build it. And that's why I'm just diving in. And then once I actually have a working prototype, I get enough inertia to get the team together where they can actually understand how we can do it in the way that fits within our framework.
Yeah, well, and that also, I mean, it shows the challenge that I think a lot of other orgs have and will have, and that's like without someone like you,
right,
being able to lead by example and push for that, like for most people, it's just not going to be worth the effort.
Yeah, and the CEOs at a lot of these large companies just want to keep their pay package and not get fired. They're not gonna shake things up and come in and actually fight their lawyer, do anything. They're just gonna act like everything's fine until they retire and then give it to somebody else to deal with the fallout. That's literally what's going to happen in a lot of companies. And that's why the average age of a company in the Fortune 500 goes down every year. I think it's less than 20 years old now for that exact reason. It creates a lot of opportunity though for people like myself.
And then on the other end of the scale, I mean, the first thing you talk about is being a parent, and I'm learning a lot from my 10-year-old. And one of the most fascinating things right now with my 10-year-old is having a kid who isn't a digital native. She's an AI native. Like she's going to have a hard time remembering what life was like before AI.
I know.
And you see this like changing how she thinks about things. And even actually on the way to school this morning, she on the way to the bus, she actually said like, ChatGPT is so dumb. I'm like, what do you mean by that? Well, because we tried this new, as someone here can help me think of it, this new like AI therapist is sort of like a successor to Pi that's got some fun and they're still in beta, like API only, begins with an H. Someone can help me here. And we tried this out and it was so freaking Hume. There we go. Thank you, Kate, our winner today. And so we're trying this. If you haven't done the demo, it's insane. And she was actually asked, she and I were asking Hume how bad a parent I was for pulling an April Fool's Day prank on her. And it was responding, Hume was critical enough of me that that she really liked it, but it was like really, like it took that like sense of what's human, would have passed any and every Turing test, right? And so she's already like, OpenAI is so dumb because it can't do that yet.
Right. Incredible. Right. Yeah, it's a challenge. I spoke a couple of weeks ago to 600 college professors for Pearson in Atlanta, Georgia, and they were just like befuddled by the things I was talking about. And, you know, I always thought college professors had, you know, their work cut out for them in terms of teaching things that were outdated. But in the world where this technology 6 months from now is 10x what it is today, how can they prepare youth for the future in the workforce? And it was illuminated to me because last year my son goes to a private school in Brooklyn and he got caught cheating on his term paper by using ChatGPT. And you know, they were, the teachers were flabbergasted, and you know, we spoke to the principal, and I have to be honest, like half of me was pissed off because I wanted to do the work, but the other half was kind of proud of him because we're all going to be asked to use these tools in our career to further ourselves. And so is he ahead of the curve? Because, you know, if he doesn't use these tools and adopt them, where is he going to be in the workforce? So obviously his mother didn't feel the same way. She was not happy, and I get it. And it's just, that kind of illustrates, I think, the dilemma that younger people face going into the workforce. I'm trying to tell both my older kids that they need to be spending so much time in AI. And I feel like that I see how it's playing out a lot more than they do, that they don't realize the incredible changes happening right beneath their feet. But as someone, again, who's lived through the onset of the internet, social media, mobile, and now AI, if the disruption scale was 10 out of 100 for those, it's 1,000 out of 100 for this. Just the level and the application and what it's going to do, I think, is just being so dramatically underestimated by everybody, despite the hype that we're in.
Yeah, it's
and I'm practical. I'm not somebody who just goes on stage and talks about stuff. I'm doing it. I'm living it. I'm seeing it.
Well,
and if that bears any weight to what I'm saying,
yeah, that's.
And you obviously all understand this on this call because you're all here.
It's well, and on the call, it's a mix of people who are like the deepest subject matter experts, of people just trying to keep up and know that this is a room where they can do so. Powell, thanks for volunteering. You're on the line. You're on the air.
Yeah, absolutely. This is really great, Matt. Thanks so much. Just curious, like when you talk about running all this data and dumping it into ChatGPT about your company, like what exact data, like what kind of data are you running? Like, you know, like I have a small agency, like I wouldn't even know what data to load into.
Right. So the big data streams we're using is product usage data, Salesforce data in terms of prospects we spoke to, how they're hearing about us, how we win, financial and SaaS metric data. So, you know, renewal rates and retention and customer acquisition costs and lifetime value, and then customer call transcripts, which we talked about. Those are 4 key areas of data that we're really leaning into to basically, you know, create the concoction of applications that allow us to operate more efficiently.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much.
And thanks, Powell. Other questions? I want to make sure next 15 minutes or so you get to.
I have one.
Please, Mark.
Matt, you were talking about data earlier and the benefit of being a remote company and having data available in the cloud. Now, when you're looking at small and medium-sized businesses, where a lot of them were sort of late adopters to all of the cloud technology for various different reasons, where do you see where do you see the small and medium-sized businesses going when it comes to all of this
Right.
adoption? Like where do you think are the easier industries to break in if you're like building in tech or an ad tech, marketing tech,
Yeah.
versus the ones that are more of the uphill battle?
Right. So I was about to say, when you're talking about small and mid-sized business, before you mentioned tech, like if you have a bakery and you sell great cupcakes, like you're probably all good. Like data probably doesn't matter that much because AI can't make cupcakes for you to eat, right? So I think that for us, it matters so much because we're a software company. We're a venture funded SaaS company. We need to be able to compete in this area. So I think a lot of it depends upon what your business model is and what you're actually trying to accomplish. I think service businesses are going to have to really innovate, especially without data, because a lot of service businesses, whether you're in legal or you're in accounting or you're in finance, and you have you run an accounting firm or you run a law firm, those businesses without data and without technology, I mean, they're really at existential risk, right? And I would, if I were running a law firm, I would quickly try to figure out how I can capture data. Like, and they have the data, it's just in files. Like, in other words, if I ran a law firm for 25 years and nothing was in the cloud, I would hire a company to digitize all of that and understand every piece of case law that I've ever been involved in to help me understand how I'm differentiated and then bring something differentiated to my clientele, right? So everyone has some type of data. You just have to find it. And even if it's in dusty old file cabinets, I would quickly try to unpack that and see what AI can help you learn about your business and help you build for the future.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mark. Carrie, please.
Hey, Matt, how are you doing?
Hi.
I've been playing around with AI at the very, very surface level, summarizing notes, doing some basic research and all of that. But I'm wondering if you've played with it at all to do creative work.
Yes, all the time.
And how are you finding it? Because I'm finding it sort of hit or miss. I'm just wondering.
Well, it matters what you define creative work. Like I find it's a great brainstorming partner. So basically, just ultimately the idea has to be mine. But what happens if I brainstorm with a group, right, of my employees, often like I find that they don't want to say your idea is bad, Matt, right? Or like, because I run the company, and that's not always helpful. I find the best employees are ones who do kind of push back. And ultimately, you need to get to an idea that you believe in. But so I don't think AI will give you that idea you believe in, but it can help you get there. So I find for brainstorming, it's great. So I'll start by saying, I want you to act as a world-leading branding and advertising consultant, helping me get to this idea. What do I need to give you to tell you? And it would ask me 10 questions. And those, just even answering those 10 questions, by the time I've answered them, I've actually gotten a lot further along towards getting towards the idea. And I keep going and I'm like, oh, that's it. And then once I have it, in terms of creative, the actual like copywriting and art, again, like I think that you can get just as far by using a tool like Canva, or even using something like Fiverr and outsourcing it, or 99 Designs, as you would with an ad agency in most instances, if you have the right insight and idea behind it. Right now, obviously, you're not going to use that to do a Nike shoot with LeBron James. Like, that's what I'm saying. But in terms of the everyday social creative and things like that, that's where I think it's really effective.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Awesome. Karen?
Hi, Matt. Great presentation.
Thank you.
I'm building a chat GPT, an OpenAI chatbot for a RAG system. And you mentioned something about an enterprise license, OpenAI. I'd like to understand what that looks like. Is that like unlimited usage or cheaper transactions, or how does that look?
Yeah, so basically we did it directly with their company. It gives my entire organization essentially access to what's called a Suzy workspace. And the Suzy workspace allows us to deploy the custom app. So we've built an app that helps our employees analyze research better. We build an app that helps them understand AI related information. We build an app that helps them tap into our company's metrics and data. That's all powered by our own proprietary data. Through this workspace, everything we feed into that workspace is not feeding OpenAI's model. So it's completely protected. We also have kind of rights and administrative privileges to say, these people can create apps, these people can't. So it gives us, and it creates a certain level of data security where the apps also can't be shared with people who don't have an email in our domain. So it gave us the protection and sort of the control that appeased our legal team to allow us to really unlock the power of AI and how we operate. Where if we just let everyone do it on their own, that would never be the case. And then from a cost perspective, I'm not really sure how the tokens work, but I know that you're essentially doing like, you're buying in bulk. And when you spend several $100,000, you can they're going to give you a lot more. And they also give us access to new things that aren't available to the public yet that we can deploy and work with our clients on. Okay, right. I have found that they are very nascent though. Like they had features in their sales collateral that was actually not in their product. Like when a company grows that fast, you think that, oh, they must be great. And I found the product's great, but everything else is not. In terms of like, they just don't have their shit together yet, right? But like, that's okay. We don't really need them to. But a lot of miscommunication, even like getting them set up as a vendor was just surprisingly bad. But it hasn't really impacted our ability to leverage it.
Great. Kate.
Hi, Matt. Thanks for the great discussion today. I'd love to go back quickly to what you were saying earlier in the call about how you don't have a lot of trust in building synthetic audiences, and this idea of digital twins, and conducting flash polls and focus groups at the push of a button. Because I've been talking to a number of vendors who do that, and thinking about them as solutions for my clients. I'm a consultant in the AI space. And I just would love for you to dig a little bit deeper into why that's a space that you don't trust and how you're doing things differently in a way that you feel is better for customers.
Well, so I think that how are these digital twins being powered? Well, they're being powered by things people wrote and said in the past, right? So they're not being impacted by all the signals that have them forward looking. And I think humans are, innate and different in that we combine emotions and rational thought and ways that we are, like, for example, why does somebody purchase a Lexus versus a Toyota when they both have the same engine, but the Lexus is $25,000 more? Like, AI wouldn't know that as a forward-looking thing that people would start to do that, right? Or buy Birkin bags for $50,000 because there's no rational sense behind it. And I don't think AI has the ability to emotionally deduce why the reason that humans do, right? So I think for certain types of research, we are trying to uncover what's next and where the consumer is going, asking synthetic audiences, which is being fueled with data sources from the rearview mirror, will essentially have your business building things for yesteryear, not tomorrow. So is that universally applicable? No. Do I think there's instances where synthetic audience makes sense? Yes. But I think that, this world's changing so fast that I just wouldn't trust it versus, because why are you guys on the Zoom? Why wouldn't you just go on ChatGPT and ask them the questions that David asked me, right? You're having value listening to me, right? So it's the same reason why, why are your clients hiring you as a consultant? Why don't they just ask ChatGPT to ask as a world-class consultant, right? So for the same reason you have a job is the reason I wouldn't ask synthetic audience for everything as it gets the answer. Doesn't mean for nothing. It doesn't mean it won't get better over time. That's just how I feel. And I might be wrong. I also don't think clients trust it either. Like,
I don't think they do either. I think what's interesting about it, and sorry to hijack, I feel like, because I was a brand marketer for 20 years before I did this consulting, and a focus group takes like 6 weeks to get your results back, and you get this group of people.
Not with Suzy.
And right, but but they're having a day, right? Like they walk into that room and maybe there's something that had a flat tire, or someone in the room reminds them of X, and so they're being like extra surly. And people are by nature very variable in terms of what they say at any given point in time, versus if you have a synthetic human that's going to say the exact same thing every single time. it seems to me like there's a reason why that consistency might be of value. And so can you just talk to me a little bit?
Well,
more
but I
about how
mean,
you approach that?
but aren't your customers going to get flat tires in real life? Like, that's sort of what makes us human. Is we're not selling to robots. We're talking to people who feel different on different days. And sometimes you need to pick me up, and sometimes you're feeling like you're on top of the world. And I think it's those insights that make talking to humans about these sorts of things like so valuable, because humans are skeptical, especially in this world. Like, we know what's happening this fall with the election and AI and deep fakes. We know about all the trouble that's going on in the Middle East and, our relationship with China and all these things, or at least I do. It's like, holy shit, this world's a very uncertain place. And that, in ways that I might not be able to put my finger on, maybe changes my decision to buy that car or go on a vacation, right? Or might make me respond a little differently to creative. Is AI taking all those things into consideration? Maybe not, right? So I think that's really the main difference. And I just don't know how close we are to getting there. And I think it's valuable in so many ways, but I don't know if it's going to, paint the next great painting or invent the next great startup or something like that. And that's where I think the difference is.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kate. I almost called on you when before the questions started coming in, because I figured
it's really a great discussion, because I go back and forth on it. And that being said, we're investing millions of dollars into that audience, so I'm not anti by any means.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for all that, Kate. We'll do a few more, like a speed round here. So Limor, go for it.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Hi, Matt. Thank you for today. It's really giving me, expanding my horizon.
Great. Thank you for
I wanted to ask you about collaborative instead of generative tools, which are coming around my way and look very promising. I think that's kind of my world.
Yeah.
Where, we have to think about the client privacy, and also most of us are NDA, so we have to think of kind of how we talk about things, how we produce products. So I wanted to hear a bit more what you think about the collaborative tools, the collaborative AI space. And have you worked on it?
I don't really know a lot about it. Can you give me an example of a collaborative AI tool?
I heard about lately.ai. It's a collaborative tool that just came out a while ago. I haven't tried it yet, but I'm checking it. I'm checking a lot of things right now.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, it's very interesting. I mean, when you say collaborative, where my mind goes to is it like, does it, like, Zoom is collaborative AI tool?
Well, I'm thinking more about A/B testing, but it doesn't go out of your realm, so it stays. Your information is your information. You feed it the information. When you have an account with Lately, it's just you feed it with your data, and it stays within your.
So that's what we have with OpenAI. We have a private instance where our data doesn't feed the model. Yes. So, and that's how we power all of our internal applications that we use. Because we would never put customer data or financial data of our company somewhere where it could, leak out one day. So I think that's where it's at. But it's interesting the way that AI can help people collaborate better. I also am really fascinated with the Apple Vision Pro. When it comes to research, when it comes to collaboration, what role is that going to play? Yeah. Because in every technological revolution, the device has played a major role. Whether it was the laptop or the iPod or the iPhone, right? So what is in the even the AirPods more recently? So what's the hardware that's going to help power these experiences in a different way? And you have the Meta Ray-Ban glasses, you have all these new chips that are coming out that NVIDIA is creating. I think that's a fascinating place as well.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. We'll see if we can get one or two last ones, but Justin?
Oh yeah, great, thanks. So I wanted to piggyback off the other question. Since we're in this era of kind of we don't really search for things anymore. We kind of scroll and things are given to us. TikTok. It was a great questions that you had before, just with kind of how to ask the correct question in an environment where people don't really search for what they're looking for anymore. Everything is kind of drip fed to them through the algorithm. So like I'll give you one quick example because it's fun. It's like value proposition in the form of posing a question where do you like the answer, and I give you the quote and then you pay for the service. I had because I got the label with Sony recently, I technically own a music label and I have the advertising agency which fuels it, Morningstar Media Group, Morningstar Music Group. We got with the former producer in the form of audio engineering for Rage Against the Machine, and then his audio equipment, people want to buy it because he had Frank Sinatra and who else was it? I can't remember, but that's good enough. Anyway, he wants to build a content house and then record it. And then I'm also a licensed realtor with Sotheby's, so we're probably going to buy him a place in Greenpoint so he can do that. But do you kind of see what I'm saying on how we had to leapfrog to all these different like metrics and avenues of potential services rendered to get there? I kind of don't see in this environment of the economy a sort of straightforward throughput for rendering services in almost any sector, because people basically ask me, okay, what can you do for me? Which is kind of a question as old as time, but I think you see where I'm going here.
Yeah, I think if you're running a service, you really have to differentiate for sure. And I do think there's going to be a huge boom for experts in this area over the next 5 to 10 years. And that's where like the big consultancies, the McKinseys of the world, the Accentures are pivoting to basically help companies, build their new operating frameworks around this. So I do think services will play a role in the short term. Over the long haul, we'll see in terms of if that demand will remain.
Yeah, well, Matt, this was amazing. I don't want to keep you past the hour. Appreciate you spending all this time with us, and hope you can spend some time. This is just
always, Berkey. You just say the word.
Well, love it. Thanks everyone for your participation. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Great. Thanks everyone.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, David.
Thanks, Matt.
It was really great
Thanks,
again.
David.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Later.